Part 106. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1054. We just heard that there is a special thing in the hands of this old man. We will bring the old man back alive tonight, and we will also take away a lot of all the things in his house. In this way, we can complete the task and we can get a very rich harvest. Remuneration, and even a title. This one looks like a representative of their boss, who took the initiative to tell these things. Others did not speak again, but waited for the boss to explain. Don't you know this old man? Zhao Yun became an interrogator this time, asking the assassin in front of him what the relationship was between them. My little brother has met this old man several times, but I don't trademark know how familiar he is. The boss shook his head. He didn't know anything about this. He could only give all the opportunities to speak to the younger brother. Who can continue to talk about this today? Zhao Yun turned around and asked the others to explain honestly. If these people don't explain clearly, the big knife in his hand will not look at the dishes. My name is Wu Xian, and I am a distant relative of this old man. When his son went to the battlefield, he and I were together, so I got to know him very well. One time he drank too much and told us about the famous sword. Regarding the following events, I didn't know at the time that he was pretending to be crazy and acting stupid in the hope of escaping this disaster. Wu Xian explained the original reason. Judging from the past, he told, sometimes some people have been hunted down for a long time. It was not other people's fault, but he did have a problem with himself. Facts have proved that alcohol is a problem, not a good thing for anyone. When did I tell you this? Impossible. I don't trademark talk in my sleep even at night, so why would I talk to you when I trademark am drunk? The old man doesn't believe this news no matter what. It turns out that he leaked it himself. The sorrow in his life was actually caused by himself. How do you want him to believe it? What I said is just the truth, but don't worry, I didn't participate in your daughter's affairs. I was just watching from the side, so there is no need to hold a grudge against me. Wu Xian is like a suspect who is eager to clear up the relationship. He wants to put all the blame on others and refuses to admit that he is also guilty of watching. I will not let you go about what happened back then. If you can leave here alive, I will definitely kill you. When someone mentioned the tragic death of his daughter, how could the old man think calmly? He yelled and rushed forward to strangle the man in front of him. Fortunately, Zhao Yun quickly stopped him with his quick eyes and hands. The old man yelled and was bound to take revenge. But because Lu Feng has not ordered the killing of these assassins yet, it is necessary for Zhao Yun to keep these assassins alive until Lu Feng gives the order. For other things, you have to ask our boss. I don't trademark no. Wu Xian is also a smart man. He knows that his value is only so little, so he quickly left the game. I just took my brothers to support my family. If you insist on finding a culprit, you should go to Prince Dan. This task is what he asked me to do next. The boss had a headache. He suddenly realized that it was so difficult to survive. He repeatedly explained to Lu Feng that he hoped he would not kill himself and his brothers. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1055. Others don't know what a certain word in this sentence means, but Lu Feng knows very well that during the Warring States period, only one person would be called Prince Dan like this, and that was Prince Dan of Yan State. When King Yingzheng of Qin was assassinated in the court in the future, the famous incident of Jing Kei's assassination of Qin was left behind, which was planned by Prince Dan of Yan State. Speaking of which, Ida trademark s not like Prince Dan of Yan State and King Yingzheng of Qin did na trademark know them. They were hostages in Zhao State together when they were young. In fact, they already knew each other when they were very young, and they have the same experience of being hostages. their relationship should be quite good. But the two men eventually took different paths. I don't a Euro trademark T know if when they were young, they thought that when they grew up, they would fight each other and wish each other was dead. Nonsense, I heard that Prince Yan Dan has died a long time ago. Where did you receive his mission? The old man sneered at this. Everyone in the world knew that Yan had already killed Prince Dan when he destroyed Qin. How could Prince Dan survive? How could we possibly know that kind of thing? If you have to ask, you should ask Prince Dan, not us. The boss rolled his eyes. Sometimes things are not what everyone sees. It is reasonable for things to change. Others did not believe this news, but Lu Feng believed it because he had already seen it. The story of Minjiao in the Qin dynasty, so he knew very well that Prince Dan was indeed alive and became a giant of the Mo family. But now Prince Dan is not in the Mo family's organ city, so where is he now? Still, are you staying in Yan State? Where is Prince Dan now? How did you contact him? Is it him? Prince Dan of Yan State is a very cautious person, and his appearance is also very mysterious. It is difficult to imagine that these assassins in front of him can come into contact with him. The reason why Lu Feng is obviously interested in Prince Dan is because of the weapons in his hands. That is, non-attack. The Mahist non-attack is a good thing that only the Mahist giants can possess. It can change its form, and even shark teeth cannot do anything to it. In other words, one of his functions was invented just to deal with shark teeth. For Lu Feng wanted to collect this kind of good thing that made flexible use of mechanism skills and make it his own. Although this thing had nothing to do with the tasks assigned by the system, he didn't mind adding to his collection. Of course it is Prince Dan himself, otherwise, how could he give us the title? The boss is very dissatisfied with other people's suspicions. The Yan kingdom has already destroyed him. Even if he promises to give you a title, how can he fulfill it? Lu Feng laughed at him for having no brains. After King Yingzheng of Qin dies, Prince Dan of the Yan kingdom will become the new king of the Yan kingdom. After he becomes the king, he will be able to grant us titles. The boss retorted angrily. He didn't like this feeling of being looked down upon very much. I thought you were capable, but it turns out you are just a group of people who united to fight against Qin. Lu Feng originally thought there was any reliable information, but in the final analysis, they were just united to fight against Qin. Isn't this just like the farmers and other disciples who formed an anti-Qin alliance and actively joined it to take their lives? Lead a Euro trademark S exchange for a future that we can a Euro trademark T even wait for. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1056. These assassins were stunned. They did not expect that Lu Feng knew them so deeply, and seemed to have an obsession with Prince Dan, making them hesitant to tell everything. The person who contacted us must be the Prince Dan himself. He has the mark of the Prince Pill of Yan State in his hand, so only he himself can get such things. We believe that what we are in contact with is the Prince Pill, so we are willing to work hard for him. Otherwise, we would not have taken on this task from the beginning. A few assassins still act upright and solemn, as if what they do is a contribution to all mankind. In fact, they are just tools to be used. How can they be so noble? When was the last time you contacted me and by what method? I want to see Prince Dan the next time we meet. If you are more honest, I will be more polite to you. If you are unwilling to explain honestly, you will bear the consequences. Lu Feng just wants to see Prince Dan now, so it doesn't matter what these assassins think, and he won't stop them from doing other tasks next. Now I just need to know how to see the Prince Pill and get the non-attack that can only be inherited by the Mahist giant. Now Tianming has not entered the Mo family, so he has not entered that special place, nor has he been recognized by Fei Gong or Prince Dan. So Fei Gong must be in the hands of Prince Dan now, but the prerequisite for how to grab this thing from Prince Pil is to see Prince Pil. Prince Dan is very mysterious and never lets anyone know of his existence. Even his death in the past was intentional. Everyone thought he was dead, but who could have imagined that he had been operating secretly? 3 days later, on the 15th day of the first lunar month, Prince Dan will appear again. He will meet us with a white flower in his hand. At that time, we only need to give a code. He will say that the night is dark and the wind is high, and we will say murder and arson. The assassins have no other choice now. After all, people are now slaves and I am fish and meat. If they are disobedient, Lu Feng can kill them at any time. They are here to do a mission, not to die, so in order to save there is nothing that cannot be sold about one's own life. They betrayed one of their own people so simply, Lu Yuz was obviously stunned for a moment. This boy who had just turned 14 seemed to have been severely beaten by society at this time. For the first time, he knew it turns out that cruelty can happen at any time. Did you just sell the Prince Pil like this? Don't you ask what we want to do to Prince Dan? If you die because of this encounter, do you know how much impact it will have on other people? Lu Yuz asked in disbelief, how could they betray their employer so easily? Moreover, the employer gave him money, shouldn't he have some benevolence, justice, and morality? We are here to do a mission. If the mission fails, then all we have to consider is saving our own lives. If you want to ask, how to keep the 4 words of benevolence, justice, and morality? Then you shouldn't look for us, we are different from that group of people. The assassin was very puzzled by this. It sounds like their group of assassins don't pay attention to this. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1057. Judging from what these assassins said, there are several waves of assassins in this world. Some assassins will do anything as long as you pay them, but there is no guarantee that they will betray you. Some assassins will not betray their original employer even if the mission fails after they pay, so it depends on which side the employer chooses. And the price charged by these assassins who are willing to sell out is much lower than the price of those assassins who uphold benevolence and morality. Prince Dan is not a poor man, so why did he choose such a group of people? In Lu Feng's impression, the Mo family was not particularly rich, but paying for assassins was not a problem. But there is no need to think so much now. After seeing Prince Dan in person, you will be able to know what is going on. As for these assassins, Lu Feng did not intend to release them to cause trouble, so he knocked them unconscious and hid them inside the cellar. This will prevent them from causing trouble when they wake up. The exit of the cellar will also be sealed. Unless it is pried open with a hammer from the outside, there is no way to get in. After settling these people, Lu Feng quickly took the people to rest in the inn, quietly waiting for the arrival of the full moon night, when they would be able to meet the legendary Prince Dan of the Yan Kingdom. When the 15th day of the first lunar month arrived, Lu Feng specially changed his clothes before going to the agreed place. This is a deserted land with human habitation, and no other people are seen. The full moon is hanging high in the sky, and the moon is sparse. It is a good day. Ordinary people stay at home at this time, because today is the night of the full moon, which means perfection and beauty. Many people just want to be reunited with their families at home. Even if it is not the Mid-Autumn Festival, they would rather be at home. I just wanted to have a good sign, but for Lu Feng, this good sign was not needed, because today he wanted to see what the Prince Pil was about. Why on earth are you chasing that old man? He didn't know how long he had been waiting, but a man in a black robe slowly approached. When he walked in, he realized that this man was not only wearing a black robe, but also had a mask on his face. The whole body was covered so tightly that no one could see any exposed skin. Even his hands were covered with gloves. If it weren't for his height and body shape, maybe even the last bit of real information wouldn't be revealed. Prince Dan seemed to be very worried about being recognized by others, so he covered everything up. The night is dark and windy. Seeing the white flowers in his hand, Lu Feng knew that he was right, so he simply said the code to check. Murder and arson. Tai Zi Dan answered the code quickly, but he was stunned for a moment, maybe because he originally thought it was him who said Ye Haifeng was high, not Lu Feng. Why did you change the person? Where is your boss? Why didn't you contact me today? Prince Dan did not approach Lu Feng, but kept a safe distance from him. Obviously, he was very wary of this person who came to contact him for the first time, and he immediately raised his doubts. If Lu Feng's answer was correct, if there is a problem, he may turn around and leave. Our boss fell into the trap and is currently recovering from his injuries. Our team has suffered a lot, so I am the only one here. Three Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1058. Lu Feng's explanation was satisfactory, so Prince Dan did not have too much doubt. He seemed to think that it was normal for their team to be injured. Since he can predict this, it means that he has an advanced understanding of the old man's strength. You clearly knew that the old man would set a trap, why didn't you warn us? Many of our people are injured now. If you continue to give us the same little benefit as before, we will no longer do anything for you. Lu Feng was the first to question Prince Dan, thinking that he did not explain everything clearly, thus causing losses to his own people. In fact, this was also a bluffing method, making Prince Dan mistakenly think that something bad had really happened to them. Things, and then lower your doubts about yourself. This is indeed my fault, but I hope you can understand me. I didn't mean it. I just thought he wouldn't kill you. You were just injured. I will be responsible for all the medical expenses. Prince Dan hesitated and gave a reason that couldn't be counted as a reason. He actually used the old man not to kill them as a reason for not telling them the whole truth. If he told the assassins the news, they would definitely not. I will buy it. But when I think about it, these assassins have betrayed Prince Dan. They are half-matched, so what can they say? If you lie to us like this, it will be difficult for us to do things for you again. Even the things you promised us may not be possible now. You should know how difficult it is to kill King Qin Yingzheng. Lu Feng deliberately acted angry, so that he could be more consistent with his identity as an assassin who came here. In this matter, I am indeed sorry for you. If you have any requirements, you can put them forward in the future. As long as I can do it, I will definitely agree. Now you should tell me, have you got what the old man has? Tai Zi Dan brought this topic to light. What he wants to know now is whether he got what he wanted. As for the other things, he can solve them later. The old man was stubborn and refused to say anything. We just found a key from his house, but what is the use of this? If we want to open the door, which door should we open? We don't know, but we wouldn't mind letting you meet him if you could get him to spit it all out. Lu Feng deliberately lured Prince Dan to him, just to let him enter the inn, so that he could be detained without anyone noticing. What's more, with Prince Dan's caution, he must have been there long ago. He arranged for the person to contact him. If he did not go back at any point in time, the other party would definitely take measures. Lu Feng wanted Prince Dan to take the initiative to contact his backup man and ask him and the backup man to give instructions before returning. Follow him back to the inn. In this way, even if Prince Dan does not go back for a few days, others will not make a fuss. Because it is Prince Dan who said it himself, there is no need to contact him for the time being, which saves Lu Feng a lot of trouble. Have you captured that old man alive? If that's the case, I'm willing to go with you and see him in person, but I don't want you to torture him to extract a confession. He is a good man. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1059. Prince Dan's words made Lu Feng feel very strange. Why on earth was this old man called a good person? Why does Prince Dan know him so well? Could it be that they have known each other for a long time? So why are we chasing each other again? Is not this contradictory? We were not rude to him. He was an old man after all, and we were not heinous people. Why would we do anything to an old man? Now we just tied him to the inn, but he refused to say anything. Maybe you can only know what you want by asking in person. Lu Feng shrugged his shoulders and didn't care about this. He just used the simplest language to guide Prince Dan. He was able to go to the inn with him and detain him without anyone noticing. In this case, it is naturally best. You wait for me for a quarter of an hour. After a quarter of an hour, I will go and talk to the old man. You must be polite to him. I don't want you to hurt him. Prince Dan thought about it for a while, and finally decided to follow Lu Feng, but he set aside some time and Lu Feng's judgment was the same. He had already reserved a backup plan, and now he was going to turn around and take the backup plan. Cancel. Of course Lu Feng had no objection to this. He waited for him to handle the matter before returning to the inn with him. There was no assassin in the inn now, only the old man was tied up and his hands and feet were gagged. Sitting on the ground. The moment Prince Dan saw the old man, his eyes became very complicated. Zongfu, why are you doing this? After a long time, Prince Dan finally said the first words he said when he saw this old man, and this sentence also confirmed Lu Feng's previous guess. Prince Dan really knew this man and was very familiar with him. Why do you and he know you? Have you always been taking advantage of others? In fact, are all your pursuits of him a lie? Lu Feng did not let go of the old man, but directly questioned Prince Dan. Now that he came to the inn, Prince Dan is the winner. Naturally, all the dominance is in Lu Feng's hands. He is an old man in the palace. He has always been by my side and has watched me grow up. But then he stole something from the palace and ran away. I have been looking for him for many years and finally I was able to find him. Prince Dan has not yet become suspicious of Lu Feng. He just casually explained what happened that year, because this matter is not really a secret. After all, when the Yan kingdom was beaten, everyone knew how chaotic the top brass was. It is said that when the Yan state palace was attacked by the Qin state, both the maids and the eunuchs secretly carried a large amount of property from the palace. Even the king of Yan could not restrain the servants when they escaped. Because Prince Dan Jing assassinated Qin state. The failure caused panic in the entire Yan state. Many people were afraid that the king of Qin would destroy the country with thunder, so they thought of escaping early. The only ones who were willing to fight for the Qin state were those soldiers and officers who stood on the front line. Most of the people among the people have a distrustful attitude towards this war. If it were not because the situation did not allow it, they might have left the city gates and surrendered to Qin. In the end, it turned out that it was after Qin invaded previously, there had been an extremely disharmonious state within the Yan kingdom. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1060. This old man seems to be what Prince Dan said. He is no different from the person who stole things and escaped from the palace. But this is also a bit strange. So why do other people have a negative attitude towards this old man when they hear about him? A certain amount of respect, thinking that he has completed his mission and kept his promise. But when he stole the thing, he didn't do it intentionally, but someone from our royal family asked him to do it. Prince Dan looked heartbroken, recalling what happened back then, and was still brooding about it. It turned out that it was his uncle Wang who asked the old man in front of him to steal a national treasure from the palace. From now on, Putting it into the hands of Uncle Wang allowed him to successfully rebel and seize the throne of King Yan. Unfortunately, while he was stealing it, the entire kingdom of Yan fell into war, and he did not have time to put the sword into Uncle Wang's hands. In my hands, I wandered outside. You actually knew what happened back then, why didn't you stop me? Now that I have taken the things away, you royal family did not lose everything. Shouldn't you be grateful to me? Why are you still chasing me now? I have watched you grow up, but you treat me like this, which really chills me. Zongfu looked very distressed and expressed his bitterness to Prince Dan. It was obviously his fault in the first place, but at this moment, it seemed that everything his mistakes were all because of Prince Dan and had nothing to do with him. Lu Feng suddenly realized that it would be helpful to pull the old man's words out of his mouth. Listening to the content of his quarrel with Prince Dan, he could also know what happened back then was like watching a play. You helped my uncle rebel, and you actually felt that you were not wrong. I really shouldn't have believed you in the first place, so I gave you the opportunity to steal our famous sword. Tai Zi Dan was a little angry, but his anger lasted less than 3 seconds and turned into calm. Perhaps it was because he stayed in the Mo family for too long, and his temper became more and more gentle, and he lost the youthful temperament and impulsiveness of the past. So you are sending people to hunt me now just to get that thing back? Why bother? That thing has been hidden by me forever, and no one of you can find it. Zongfu sighed. Until this moment, they had not realized how Lu Feng got Prince Dan over. This problem was very serious. My people have found the key you hid. Now I just want to ask you what exactly that key is used for? Answer my question and I will spare your life. After all, Prince Dan still couldn't bear it. The man in front of him was an old man who had watched him grow up, so he kept saying that he was a good man and please be kind to him, because he could not do anything to his elders. But he would never forget it. He is the person in front of Prince Dan of the Yan Kingdom. He has betrayed his motherland. He is not qualified to forgive him. You must have some misunderstanding about this. If this is just a place to hide all the money I have in this life, it does not mean that the location of the sword is next to me. Zongfu laughed. He laughed at these people for misunderstanding the purpose of his key, and at the fact that the secret he had guarded throughout his life had not been discovered. What they were talking about was the famous sword Ling Xiao that had been hidden. 3 Kingdoms, I have a job transfer palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1061. Although Ling Xiao's sword has not made up the rankings, it does not mean that it has no effect, and it is also the work of Master Ouyuzi. It's just that more records can only be found in unofficial history, and there are no relevant records in official history. It is said that the Yan King family asked the master to forge the famous sword personally. As a national treasure, it has always been placed in the most hidden place in the palace, and this place is only known to the royal family. This old man grew up watching Taizidan, so he was told the location of this place by Taizidan, and was able to complete the subsequent series of stealing operations. Prince Dan has been a hostage in the state of Zhao since he was a child, so he has been living a very hard life, and this old man has been with him from the time he was a hostage to the time when he returned to the state of Yan to become the prince, and never left, so he obtained the prince pill. High level of trust. He never expected that the person he trusted so much would end up being the person who stabbed him the hardest. If it weren't for the fact that he later joined the Mahist family and became a giant of the Mahist family, he might never be able to let go of this knot in his life. Are you willing to tell me honestly? If you really don't want to say anything, I will still let them torture you to extract a confession. Don't use up the last bit of respect I have for you. Tai Zi Dan is very angry. You can tell from his tone that he is very angry now. If it weren't for wearing a mask, you might be able to see how distorted his expression is now. I have already said that the key is just for me to hide my finances. As for what you want, it is not with me, but I will never tell you. The old man seemed determined and refused to say anything. In the end, he just learned from his mouth that there was a cellar in the house. After opening the cellar with the key, you can find a lot of gold and silver treasures. Lu Feng told Prince Dan not to go out, but I asked Lu Yuz to investigate, and it turned out that it was exactly the case. There was nothing else except gold and silver treasures in the cellar. It seemed that the old man was determined and refused to tell others the truth, so the so-called sword will probably be lost from now on. I can only shake my head and express that it is a pity that even if I get that sword in the future, it will only depend on fate. Now that the old man is determined not to tell, there is no need. Then torture him. Some people will stick to the so-called benevolence and morality in their hearts for a lifetime. Although he cannot understand such people, it does not mean that such people do not exist. I really did not Euro trademark T expect that he was really unwilling to tell me anything. In vain, I always thought that he was like my grandfather, who watched me grow up and took me through the difficult days of being a hostage in Zhao state. Why do you choose to betray me now? Tai Zi Dan still couldn't understand why the person who shared the joys and sorrows with him didn't choose him at the last moment. Now he is like a bitter person who is pouring out his bitterness, and Lu Feng is just a listener. See what his attitude is. Thank you for your hard work on this mission. Although it did not meet my requirements, I will, as promised before, wait until the Yan kingdom is restored in the future, and I will definitely give you a title. Tai Zi Dan shook his head, shook all the sad emotions out of his head, thanked Lu Feng and left. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Three Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1062. But obviously, Lu Feng couldn't let Prince Dan leave him right now. How could he let him go before he got the Fei Gong inherited from the Mo family? You can't leave now, I still have things I haven't asked you to do. Lu Feng refused Prince Dan, and with his refusal, Lu Buletin's people surrounded the entrance of the inn, preventing Prince Dan from having a chance to escape. Prince Dan looked at Lu Buletin, and they clearly felt that each other he was oppressed by the strong, so he did not dare to take action easily. What do you mean? The relationship between us should be just a cooperative relationship, and we won't be taking advantage of others, right? Prince Dan thinks that there is no conflict of interest between himself and these assassins, and he will not have more contact with them, so he really doesn't understand why Lu Feng does not allow him to leave now. Naturally, you have no conflict with those assassins, or even with me. Ita Euro trademark S just that there happens to be something in you that I want. As long as you are willing to put it down, you can go from here safely. Go out. Lu Feng smiled. He made Prince Dan mistakenly think that he was going to attack him personally, but in fact he was not, so he gave priority to explaining his purpose, which was not about him. If you didn't want to kill me, then why did you deliberately lure me here, and now you have your men surrounding me, don't you want to take my life? Who are you? Are you from Qin? Prince Dan obviously didn't believe Lu Feng's statement. He immediately thought of the state of Qin, because for him, only the state of Qin wanted his life so much. And his opponents have never been the other five. In the country, he will always have only one opponent, and that is Qin King Yingzheng of Qin state. I am indeed from the Qin state, but I am not from the Qin state. I am here just for the non-gong in your hands. Give the non-gong to me, and you can walk out of here safely, or you don't a Euro trademark T want to give it to me. Give me Fei Gong, and I will let Fei Gong stay here with your life. Lu Feng saw him like this and understood that no matter how much he explained, he still had his own ideas. I'm afraid it would be difficult for him to trust him, so he might as well tell him straight to the point that this matter was related to his life. This was also a reminder to Prince Dan. Since you have greater ambitions and want to do it, then it is obviously inappropriate to hand over your life here now. As long as you still want to fulfill your future dreams, then don't a Euro trademark T choose to die here. How did you know about this? Prince Dan is shocked beyond words, because the fact that he became a Mahist giant is a secret among secrets, and only a handful of people know about it. And he knows them all. He does not recognize Lu Feng, who is standing in front of him now. He was a stranger, but he seemed to know everything about this matter. This shocked him very much. There could be no traitor around him, and no one would betray him. How did Lu Feng, who is now the current status, know about this matter? Scary to think about. How do I know? You don't a Euro trademark T have to understand, and you want a Euro trademark T understand. I only want the non-attack in your hand now, and I want a Euro trademark T say it a third time. Lu Feng's attitude was very resolute. Such a resolute attitude also made Prince Dan very difficult to deal with, because he knew very well that Lu Buletin and others standing next to him could not defeat him. 3 Kingdoms, I Have a Job Transfer Palace. Author, Strong Wine Burns the Heart. Chapter 1063. Prince Dan is very hesitant now. He can't get out of here safely because he doesn't have that kind of strength, but he does still have unfinished things he wants to do, and there are some things that only he can do. If he does, should he give up the struggle? Since you know the existence of Fei Gong, you should know what he represents to the Mahist family. It is impossible for me to abandon the glory of the Mahist family for myself. Prince Dan hesitated for a moment, but finally chose to keep Fei Gong. This is a weapon passed down from generation to generation and a symbol. How could he hand over such an honor for his own life? I know that you have so-called benevolence and righteousness in your heart, but you have to think clearly. If you stay here with Fei Gong, who will do the things in the future? If you just leave the non-attack here, you can build other weapons and continue the inheritance. Prince Dan is also a person, so Lu Feng did not deliberately embarrass him. He always treated him with courtesy first and then fought with him. If it really doesn't make sense, then let Lu Buletin take action and directly grab him. Since you know everything, why not take it from me? I would rather be killed by you and take the thing away from you later than give it to you. Otherwise, I would not be able to face my ancestors. It's a pity that Prince Dan is a person who doesn't know how to adapt. He is determined to protect the things in his hands, so he will never allow himself to admit defeat or explain everything on his own initiative. Lu Feng sighed softly. He took a breath and expressed that it was a pity that this was a waste of the existence of a heroic figure. If he wiped out Prince Dan now, he didn't know what would happen in the future, but thinking about the uncertainty of the future, he felt a little bit looking forward to it. When the Central Plains is unified in the future, then the Rongdi and other tribes in the marginal areas will definitely launch an attack. If they see that there is no strong person in the Central Plains who can suppress them, what will their attitude be? Or Lu Feng can choose, now eradicate all the foreigners around. Lu Feng nodded to Lu Buletin and indicated that he could start directly, but he had to give Prince Dan a little dignity, that is, leaving his body intact. Lu Buletin respectfully and thoughtfully followed. He had already done his best by attacking Prince Dan. Prince Dan was not polite and took the lead in launching an attack because he knew that he was not strong enough, so he could only use surprise attacks to gain a greater advantage for himself. But Lu Buletin was he sure and also reacted faster. The moment Prince Dan rushed over, he blocked his attack and kicked him. The non-attack immediately changed and became a shield, blocking Lu Buletin. Huh? Is this an interesting thing? Lu Buletin let out a surprised sigh, because although the generals he had been fighting against all had their own merits, the weapons in each person's hands were fixed. He had never seen a weapon like Prince Dan that could produce changes. But even if it was very different, attacking such a special weapon with so many changes is simply not enough in the face of Lu Buletin's absolute strength. Lu Buletin suddenly made a move and grabbed Prince Dan's shoulder. Just as Prince Dan was about to make a move, Lubuladin's other hand he turned his entire arm backwards, showing a back-arching posture.